We are going to start with a brief introduction exploring the layout of CareLogic. So looking towards the top of the screens, the tabs that you will utilize are here. First, we're going to review Front Desk. So once in Front Desk, you can access any front desk by utilizing the date, the organization, and clicking Submit. This would show you any appointments for the upcoming day, where you can review status of being checked in, client responsibilities, and any messages attached to the specific patient. You also can see what type of appointment they're scheduled for and with who. Now, there are a few ways to get into a client's specific chart. You can do that by simply selecting their name within the Front Desk module. Or you can use the client search and look for them specifically. You will select this electronic client record or ECR button to get into their specific face sheet. And then once in a face sheet, you can review the client's demographic information, emergency contact, financial information, the message board. Any upcoming appointments would show here. Diagnoses show here. And service documents would be any signed or unsigned documents specific to the client. Now, how you get into these specific documents is by utilizing the Client tab. Once in the Client tab, this is everything that you would need as far as a document specified to the client themselves. So, for example, as you can see that there's consents, intake, discharge information, medical information, billing information, etc. So moving on to the schedule button. Once you select schedule, it's always going to pull your specific schedule for the day. Once in your schedule, you can see all of your scheduled appointments, what time they're scheduled at, the status of them, whether they'd be not checked in yet, checked in, kept. You can also review all canceled and errored activities. If somebody else canceled an appointment for you, say admissions, billing, etc., whomever, there are details of the communication attached to the cancellation that you can access by simply hitting the service document, yes, signed. At that time, you can review the details of the cancellation. When you're finished, you would hit return to schedule. If you want to look at a future schedule or previous schedule for yourself, you would simply come up to the calendar button, select the day you want to look at, and hit go. There are times where you'll need to view somebody else's schedule, say a therapist, a medical provider. In order to do that, you would simply select this arrow under staff schedule, select the provider that you want to look at, and it would pull that provider's schedule. Now, intake is something that we're going to look at completely separate in the next video. Favorites is something that you can compile to your own liking based off of things that you will access most frequently. So going back to the client chart, when you're in a client's ECR, there are things that you're going to utilize more frequently than others. For example, if you're working at the front desk and you're checking in a lot of assessments, you're going to be utilizing the HIPAA consent frequently. So once you're in a client face sheet, you'll come up to the Client tab. You'll find the document that you want to favorite. In this case, I'm going to select the HIPAA consent. I am going to star it to add it to my favorites. I'm going to come over to favorites, come down to client, and here's the list of everything that I've favorited thus far. So scrolling down, since I just recently added HIPAA, it's going to be towards the bottom right here. You can toggle this a bit by holding in your mouse, dragging it up so that it's a little closer and easily accessible when coming into client. Now, if you are in something, so say I'm in multi-insurance consent, and I think, oh no, I forget what the insurance is. In order to get back to the face sheet, I can simply come up here, select the client's name, and it will take me right back to that face sheet. Now to the right up here, there are a few buttons that you will utilize, such as your email button here, the log out button, which would take you logged out of the CareLogic interface, and the alerts button, which would alert you if there's any documents that require your additional signature. So thus far we reviewed how to view the front desk, how to view your individualized schedule and the schedule of other employees, how to look in a client-specific chart and make favorites to easily access certain areas of a client's chart, how to check your email, your alerts, and log out of CareLogic. So now we're going to move forward to add a little more detail into each one of these areas. Now that you've been exposed to a basic overview of CareLogic, we are going to start with understanding and learning how to check in a client. So in order to do that, we need to utilize our front desk tab. So if you are not on front desk, you would click this front desk tab at the top of the screen. You would select today's date, your specific organization, and then hit the submit button. What this does is pull every single client that has a scheduled appointment for today's date of service. Sometimes this list gets very long, and it's easier to navigate by selecting client, which would alphabetize the client's last names. So we are going to pretend that Abby Test is checking in for her 8:45 appointment. So the first thing that I would do is I would come over to where it says status. I would select this none button, and I would select checked in. Just for basic knowledge, CBC stands for canceled by client, CBT stands for canceled by therapist, and DNS stands for did not show. So we're going to keep checked in. We're going to hit submit, and it will take us back to the front desk, and we can now see that Abby is checked in for her 8:45 appointment. At this time, I would then check if there's any client responsibility due, which if there is, I would collect that, which I will review in a later clip. I would also review the message board to see if there's any additional tasks that I need to complete with this client at the time of check-in. I would then review my daily urine sheet to see if this person is due for a toxicology screen. And since they do have a medical appointment, I would have them sign their medical chart. Now that we reviewed the process of checking in, we are next going to review the process of how to cancel a client's appointment. So let's just say Autumn Test called in the office stating that she is ill and cannot attend today's medical appointment. First, I would take note of what type of appointment it is in order to reschedule. I would take note of who the provider is with in order to notify them of the cancellation. And then I would go ahead and hit that status button, and I would change it to canceled by client. I would hit submit, and as you can see, going back to the front desk, it would remove Autumn from the front desk. Now, I want to create a memo to chart of why the client canceled in order to provide the provider with additional information. So I know that when I reviewed, she was scheduled with Emalie. So I would select schedule, which I already opened in another tab due to confidentiality. Once I'm in the schedule tab, I would utilize the provider that Autumn was seeing. And this would pull every appointment that the provider has. And also at the bottom of the screen would show canceled and errored activities. So I want to go ahead and select Autumn's CBC. So as you can see, what I did there is left a detailed note regarding the contact and the outcome that I rescheduled this client for an appointment tomorrow. At this point, I would hit submit. It would require me to sign this document with my 4-digit PIN. And if you scroll down, you can see that there was a cancellation, there was a note opened, and the note was signed. Now that you know how to utilize front desk and also view a client's chart, I'm going to show you how to properly collect and post a payment. So typically payment is collected at the time of check-in. So we are going to go ahead and go to our front desk by selecting the front desk button. We're going to select today's date, our organization, and hit the submit button. This will pull every client scheduled for a date of service on today's date. Now, if there is a payment due, it would populate here under client amount due. So for this video, we're going to pretend that this says 20 here. If there are any discrepancies or if you are confused, you can simply review the message board, which has detailed information regarding the client's benefits and payments due. So here you can see that this person has Highmark and they have a $20 copay for today's date of service. So now we know how much is due. We need to apply it. So we are going to select the $20 amount. It's going to pull their name, the service, and the bottom here is if they would have any responsibility, meaning that if they already had incurred a balance, it would show here. So we know that we need to apply this copay for today's date of service. You're going to select the payment type, and you're going to hit the submit button. What this will do is generate a receipt that you can either simply X out of if the client does not want a receipt, or simply right click and print. Once done with the receipt, you can simply X out and it will take you back to the front desk. Now, what if we have somebody that comes into the front desk that does not have a scheduled date of service but wants to make a payment on their account? In order to do that, you will come up to the front desk, you will come down to the front desk tab, you will come over to cash sheet. Now, since we are not in a specific client's chart, we will have to enter in their name in order to pull their account history. So after I select my specific organization, I'm going to click enter a payment. And here next to client, I'm going to type in their name. Now you want to make sure you are on the correct chart. So you can do this by verifying date of birth or any other information that you feel is necessary. You're going to select the guarantor to be the person's self. Now, as I recently told you, this area down here is for if they had a balance due. That number would populate here under responsibility. So say this person says they want to make a $40 payment for today. I would type in the amount that they're paying. And again, I would select the payment type, hit submit, which would generate that receipt again. which you can either right-click print or simply X out of. This will take you back to the cash sheet, which you can see every payment that has been applied for today's date. And that is how you successfully enter and post a payment. Next, we're going to learn how to get a treatment plan signed by a client. So if the client is scheduled for an appointment and you are seeing that there's a message to collect a treatment plan signature at the time of check-in, you would simply already be on the front desk and can utilize that as a way to get into the client's chart. So as we can see here, let's pretend Abby is checking in. I did check in under the status button. There was no copay due, so I went ahead and read the message board and saw that she has a treatment plan dated 2/7/25 that needs signed. So in order to get into her individualized chart, I'm going to select her name. I'm going to come up to Client, Intake Assessment, and select Treatment Plan. So there is more than one in this chart. I do know that I am only focusing on this one that's 2/27, so I am going to select that. On the left-hand side, I'm going to come down to Signatures. I'm going to open the signature box by clicking Click to Sign. At this time, I would direct the patient to sign the treatment plan. I would save the signature by hitting OK, and then I would hit Submit. If somebody is not coming in for a scheduled appointment, say a therapist says, hey, Jim Smith needs to sign his treatment plan today, but doesn't have any scheduled appointments, you would simply search for the client, click the ECR button to access their face sheet and their chart, come up to Client, Intake Assessment, Treatment Plan, and follow the same directions.